that for many, many hundreds of years that they said that it couldn't be correct that the book of Genesis had a description of how that the Garden of Eden was watered with a river coming down from Mount Ararat that broke into 4 different rivers or streams: Pison, Gibeon, Edekil, and the Euphrates. But there was only 2. The Gibeon was the Tigris River, and the Euphrates River, the only 2. But then they put a satellite up in the air. And the satellite began to make mappings out of all of the areas of the world. Right now, Clinton, God bless his heart, he's a leading Boy Scout coordinator for the southern Colorado now, and he's got a little deal in his pocket that you can push it and it'll give you a map of, it'll show you where you go to McDonald's or Wendy's or where you go to a museum and see all of the, depending on what you want to choose of it. And this satellite, as they begin to picture and graph the topography of the earth so that we could have it, my wife has one in her automobile. The problem is trying to understand how do we make the thing work. We need to learn to read the instructions. And that's what the Bible is, a book of instructions that God has given unto us that shows us where we came from, where we are, and where we're going. It's a book of completion. Well, they began to study these graphs. Sure enough, they found 2 more hidden streams coming down from Mount Ararat. And the Smithsonian put out a magazine and showed these 4. It's in the Smithsonian today. I know all of you have heard about the great educational understanding of separation in church and state that our founding fathers didn't intend for our children to be taught anything about the Creator or anything about why we're here or where we're going. That there's a great wall of separation and that our leaders did not buy into this nonsense of biblical folklore. Well, it's amazing. I just happened to show up with a Smithsonian this month, Smithsonian. And right here inside of the, now this is one of the most authenticated museums of world history. You'll find there all those different kind of lizards that became all this other stuff and all that. I mean, 90% bone and 9% platypus and 10% bone. But listen to what this said. Jefferson's Bible. At age 77, Thomas Jefferson, after 2 terms as president, turned a project that had occupied his mind for at least 2 decades. The creation of a book of moral lessons drawn from the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. With painstaking precision, Jefferson cut verses from edition of the New Testament in English, French, Greek, and Latin. He pasted these onto loose blank pages, which is this bound to make a book. He titled his volume, The Life and Morals of Jesus of Nazareth. It has become known as the Jefferson Bible because Jefferson found this project intensely personal and private. He acknowledged the book's existence only to a few friends, saying they read it every night before retiring. Thanks to the research of efforts of Cyrus Adler, librarian of the Smithsonian Institute, from 1892 to 1909, we were able to purchase the Jefferson Bible from Jefferson's great-granddaughter, Carolina Randolph, in 1895. In 2009, a preservation team led by Janice Santiago Ellis, a conservator of the National Museum of History, discovered that the book's binding was damaged in its fragile pages. To save them, she temporarily removed it earlier in the year. Said, I visited a conservatory lab at the NMAH to see the fruit of the year-long conservation treatment. Having bought a copy of Jefferson's Bible some 40 years ago, and said, with the help of the museum staff and the museum conservation, the original Bible that Thomas Jefferson called and read every night, that book is now on display at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. You say, well, what difference does that make? It makes a lot of difference because, see, we're floundering around wondering what's going to happen to us, wondering where we're going, wondering what my great-grandson here can expect in his long life of excess of 100 years. That's what they're projecting. The doctors and scientists are projecting that the babies born in 2011 have a greater opportunity to live to be over 100 years old than we had that born in my day of making it to 80. Now the Bible said in Proverbs, the 4th chapter in the 18th verse, but the path of the just is as a shining light that shineth more and more unto the perfect day. And as I said, the book starts with the book of Genesis. The author of the book of Genesis was Moses. Moses was many hundreds of years after Adam in the garden, so I can only say that his knowledge was correct enough to write a book, the first 5 books of Pentateuch. Did you know all of the Socrates and the books of philosophy, Aristotle and all those, that there was some 1,500 years from the time that they purportedly taught their philosophy until it was recorded? And did you know that the majority of the New Testament was recorded within 100 years of the authors that recorded that? Moses depended on what we bought or Sally bought in Israel a few years ago when we were there. They used a little ball, and every evening the elder of that family would gather together and they would go over the history of mankind dating all the way back to when Adam was created in the Garden of Eden. Now when I was a child, I was taught in the Tabernacle Baptist Church that you could prove 6,612 days and 3 hours and 22 minutes of work man was created. That's nonsense. Amen. We don't know when Adam was created. We follow the genealogy. But we do know that Adam was created in the Garden of Eden. Now, the scientists today, the people that study the migration of man, that study the sociology of man, tells us that we all came from a common ancestry. And that was from an African heritage in the Mesopotamian Valley. Amen?
Yes.
We don't like that because some came to prejudice and racism and all that. But it's amazing how that we have now come to an understanding that man has a common ancestry, and the Bible said that we are of one blood. Now,